The article chosen by our group is titled, "I'm Black but Look White. Here are the horrible things white people feel safe telling me." It was written by Miriam Zinter and published on Yahoo News Canada. This article is a personal commentary where the author shares her real-life experiences with racism. Zinter is a black woman who has light skin, blue eyes, and a slightly wavy hair. Because of these features, people often mistake her for being white. This racial ambiguity causes many individuals, especially white people, to speak freely around her, revealing their unfiltered and often disturbing racist thoughts. Her appearance unintentionally grants her access into spaces where racism is openly expressed, which gives her a unique and painful insight into the hidden prejudices that exist in society. Now, moving on to the brief summary of the article. Zinter shares her personal encounters with racism, such as being questioned by a neighbor for supporting Black Lives Matter. She also discusses systemic racism by reflecting on how her own father was denied benefits from the GI Bill simply because he was black, and how her great aunt helped black families find housing by passing as white. Her childhood experiences are also highlighted. She was isolated by teachers in kindergarten despite being accepted by her white classmates. Instead of staying silent, she uses this moment to advocate for change by confronting racial ignorance and promoting awareness about historical and ongoing injustice. This leads to the thesis statement of the article talks about how racial ambiguity influences the way individuals experience and witness prejudice and racism, as the author talks about how white passing appearance exposes her to
Okay, for my part, I will explain about the author Miriam Zinter. She is actually a black woman, but because of her physical appearance, like her light skin, blonde hair, and also blue eyes, most people think she is white. So this article shows her point of view as someone who is often mistaken for being white. And because of that, many white people say racist things around her without knowing that she's actually black. First, Zinter's experience shows how racial ambiguity or confusion about someone's race can affect how people treat you. She always hears racist comments just because people assume she's on their side. Second, she really wants to make people realize that hidden racism still exists, not only in America, but in many societies too. She also strongly believes that people must speak up to and face the truth, instead of pretending racism is not a problem anymore. Lastly, Zinter uses her life story to push for systematic change. She supports justice and fairness for everyone, especially those who face racial discrimination. Now, for the next slide, I will focus more on how she writes and who she writes for. So as mentioned before, Zinter looks white but she is actually black. Because of that, her unique perspective is very important. She can see both sides of how people treat her based on how she looks versus who she really is. Her main purpose is to show how racism still happens in daily life, even in educated or modern environments. She shares her personal stories to help others reflect and understand. She writes mainly for people who may not realize they are being racist, especially those who benefit from white privilege. In terms of tone, Zinter is very honest and emotional. Sometimes you can feel her sadness or frustration, but also her courage. Her writing style is also very personal. She uses storytelling and reflection to make it easier for people to connect and
Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Tunavata binti Ahmad and my ID number is FM2505018562. Now I'll begin by analyzing Miriam Zinter's perspective on racism in her article. I'm black but look white. Here are the horrible things white people feel safe telling me. Because of her white appearance, Linda is often mistaken for being white. This leads people to say racist things around her, assuming she agrees. One example is when a neighbor of nearly 30 years questioned her Black Lives Matter sign, implying that black people only hurt each other. This shows how people feel safe expressing racism when they think they are among their own. Zinta also shares how others casually call black communities ghetto or use words like thugs and animals. While Shah's remarks may seem minor, they reveal deep-rooted bias. Her experiences remind us that racism is not always loud or obvious. It can be subtle, hidden in everyday comments, and recognizing these moments is an important step toward awareness and change. Moving on to the second point, Zinter's article also powerfully explores systemic racism, especially through her family's history. Her father served in the military, but when he returned home, he was denied the benefits of GI Bill simply because he was black. He couldn't use it to go to college or buy a house, rights that many white veterans had easy access to. Even when her parents had stable IOPs and savings, they faced discrimination in the housing market. They were told they couldn't buy certain homes due to the restriction that said properties couldn't be sold to Negroes. And when they applied for a mortgage, they were denied again just because of their race. In order to provide for his family, Zinter's father had to leave for Alaska to earn enough money to buy a home outright, something that wouldn't have been necessary if the system had treated him fairly. These personal stories show how racism wasn't just about individual prejudice. It was built into systems and policies that helped black families back. Understanding this history is essential to understanding why inequalities still exist today. Finally, let's talk about how Zinta actively challenges racism. She doesn't stay silent when people around her say racist things. She speaks up. She tells them, I'm black, and shares her family's story. She uses her identity to educate, not attack, but to make people reflect on their words and assumptions. She also challenges the idea that the black people I know are different. Instead, she asks them to think about why they hold those views in the first place. Her goal is to break down the stereotypes and remind people that black individuals are not exceptions. They are human beings with the same growth and dignity. Zinta also advocates for the accurate teaching of America's racial history in schools. She believes that avoiding these hard truths only allows racism to continue. To her, facing our past, including all the injustice and pain, is the only way for the country to move forward. She calls on all of us to not just observe racism, but to act, to speak, to educate, and to empathize. Because only through collective effort can systemic racism truly be dismantled.
My name is Muhammad Iman Fikri Osman. My ID number is AM2505018749. So in conclusion, Miriam Zinta's story show that racism still exists today, often hidden in everyday life. Her family's struggle with things like housing and education show how unfair systems have affected black communities for generations. Instead of staying silent, she chose to speak up, educates others, and also challenge harmful beliefs. Her story reminds us that real challenge starts with truth, awareness, and also the courage to end this presentation. Here is what we can learn from Miriam Zinta's story. She teaches us to be more aware, to stay strong, and also to keep hope for a better future. She believes that real change starts when we are brave enough to face the truth. Her story asks us to think about our actions, to listen to others, and also to help make things better for everyone. She shows that with learning and care, we can make a big difference. Change is possible and it is needed for a fair and better world. That is all from us. Thank you.